Welcome, everybody, to Know Your Rights for Immigrants and Undocumented Students and People. We have the privilege and honor of hosting Caroline Schoenberger, who is a nonprofit immigrant rights attorney, and also Tim Noonan, who is the director of 19th Ward Mutual Aid. Um, and so they're both here to talk about, very important issues. And so take it away, Caroline.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be here, particularly since I spent 15 years teaching. Honor to be here, particularly since I spent 15 years teaching both business and law at city colleges at Harold Washington College. I'm a retired government official, and I have a master's in French, an MBA, and a law degree, and I've been practicing law for a long, long time. But again, I'm very pleased to be here, and uh, I would like to open the attachment
I got you.
right now. So if we can go to the second slide. So I wanted to basically go through a few things, namely, we're in a very uncertain time, and immigrants are who have made our country great since most of us came here from other countries or have family who came here from other countries. And I regret so much the rhetoric that's being used. Deportations are not new,
Hold on a second. I
but the
don't think I'm recording. Am I recording? Oh, I am.
Yeah,
I apologize. Go ahead.
okay. Can you go back to the other slide?
You want me to start over?
Is this the
Hold on. Here we go.
okay, important information. So let me just start over. So I'm Carolyn Schoenberger, former faculty member at Harold Washington College for 15 years, where I taught business law, marketing, management, ethics, and ran a legal clinic for the students. And it's a great honor to have been asked to help give the presentations. I wanted to go over some information. First and foremost, every day is a new surprise, and it's never a good one unless a judge is telling the administration they can't do something, and we still don't know if he's going to follow it. But what I can tell you is that it's the rhetoric that is designed to be scary, and people should not make decisions without thinking about them, without consulting people and consulting people who are legally able to give you the best advice. In other words, don't go to a notary. A notary is not a lawyer or quasi-judicial figure in the United States. I know it's different in South America. I know it's different in Europe. Please don't go to a notary because that may be a problem. So please be aware that this presentation contains general advice, not specific advice. Specific advice should only be given, again, through a licensed attorney or a Department of Justice accredited lay representative. And if you're not sure, ask to see licenses. I don't know if you can see behind me. I have my licenses, diplomas, my admission to the court system in Illinois, the Northern District of Illinois, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals. So there are many, many nonprofit legal organizations that are out there, and you can access them at icirr.org. There's a list of nonprofits, what they do, who has lawyers, was accredited lay representatives, and in some cases, people do not qualify for not-for-profit organizations and will need to see a private lawyer, and there are private lawyers down there. Do not forum shop. Do not go from lawyer to agency looking for information. It's not a problem to get a second opinion. In fact, I really recommend it. But if you get a second opinion, there's no reason, unless it's different than the first opinion, to go to a third or fourth person. That's the reason you can get into trouble. I also want to acknowledge the work and materials from organizations such as the Illinois Coalition of Immigrant and Refugee Rights, the Resurrection Project, Chicago Volunteer Legal Services, whose material and advice have helped me create this presentation. There are a lot of Know Your Rights presentations out there, and a lot of us look at each other's documents because there's always something new, including something today, which I will get into in a little bit. Can I get the next slide, please? So the best advice I can give you right now is plan. You hear mass deportations, deporting families, including U.S. citizens. This is rhetoric designed to stoke fear, and they have been succeeding. Don't talk to anyone other than a licensed attorney or accredited lay representative about your situation. I have confidentiality in talking to a client or even a potential client. So does an accredited lay representative. You talk to a teacher, you talk to a friend, they could actually be called to testify against you. And again, be careful about talking to non-lawyers. Not only do we have notary publics out there, we have what's called a paralegal. A paralegal can only give advice if supervised by an attorney, and you want to know who that attorney is. If you have any doubt if someone is licensed as an attorney, you can go to the website of the Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission and look them up. So before I get into the heart of the discussion, it was announced today, and again, I don't know to what extent they're going to carry through with something, that they're going to want all undocumented people over the age of 14 who never had any visas or are not covered elsewhere to register with Immigration and Naturalization Service. I don't even know which branch. Register and get a card, and it's a criminal offense not to do so. I have some concerns about that because if something is a criminal offense, you have the right to say nothing, you have the right to remain silent, and you have the right to have a court-appointed attorney. So again, we'll have to see where that goes. So please, I'm sure it's going to be challenged. Again, wait to see and then talk to an attorney if you think that you should register. But that just came down today. Can I get the next slide, please? Okay, so here are some examples of where you can find legal assistance. Chicago Volunteer Legal Services can help with short-term guardianships, which are appropriate if you have a minor child. Don't just sign a short-term guardianship form. You want to know more about the person who your child might be staying with if you're detained or deported. You may want to, at some point, have the child join you, or just in case, it'll at least make you feel better to have a short-term guardianship arrangement. But you want to know about the person, if they have any criminal history, how much do they know about your child, does your child take medication, etc. The Resurrection Project is an excellent organization, and the Illinois Coalition is excellent, and there is the Chicago Bar Association is a good referral program too. So these are all excellent. National Immigration Justice Center, all very good organizations that are giving assistance. Can I get the next slide, please? So I'm just very briefly going to mention that we have the Illinois Trust Act, which protects immigrant communities, and basically local law enforcement people cannot enforce immigration law. And Governor Pritzker has been very, very clear that he wants this to remain the law in Illinois. Can I get the next slide, please? We have the Chicago Welcoming Ordinance, again, that prohibits the police from stopping, arresting people. And Cook County has a similar ordinance. Why is this a good thing? Because right now we want people to report crimes. If they're afraid that they're going to end up being deported, they're not going to report crimes. And right now we want to build a better relationship between the public and the police. So these are good ordinances, good laws, and the city, the county, and the state should be commended for wanting to stop crime by getting people to report crime. And that's what these welcoming ordinances and Trust Act try to accomplish. Can I get the next slide, please? So There are basic rights guaranteed by the United States Constitution, regardless of your immigration status. The main one, the right to remain silent, part of the again, Bill of Rights. Okay. You have the right to remain silent and say nothing. You have the right not to let someone into your home unless they have a judicial search warrant. How do we know you have a judicial search warrant? Because it'll say signed by a judge, the district court for the Northern District of Illinois or the Southern District of Illinois. If it's administrative, that's not the same thing. You don't have the right to let them in on an administrative warrant. You have the right to speak with an attorney. Now, because for the most part, up until today's announcement, the most part when people are detained, it's considered administrative. You can talk with an attorney, but the government does not have to have an attorney appointed. That may change based on today's announcement dealing with registration. Again, do nothing, stay tuned. Can you please go to the next slide? So what happens if you're stopped by an immigration agent? For example, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, Customs and Border Patrol, CBP. Where can you be stopped? A public place. Could be eating in a restaurant. It could be where people enter a school, but they can't go beyond the school. So, for example, at Harold Washington College, before you can enter the area where classrooms are, you have to be allowed in. Either you work there and have a pass, or security has to let you in. They can't just go into a classroom. They can't go into a kitchen. They can't go into a dressing room in a store. They can't go into your home. Again, judicial warrant or permission to enter. So it's important to tell everyone in your household to make sure that they don't just open the door. That if someone shows up and says, we want to enter, have them show you the judicial warrant. They can, sometimes there are windows on a door or next door to a door or through the mailbox or under the door. But if you open the door, they're coming in. The other piece of advice, don't run away. That's basically saying, come get me. So if you are stopped, don't attempt to flee. Certainly don't do anything to hurt anyone. But you do have the right to remain silent. You can say your name. And remember that anything you say, any action that you take can and will be used against you. And you can share a Know Your Rights document that clearly states that you don't want to speak, that you're exercising your constitutional right, and you don't want to speak to the agent except with your lawyer. Now, if you have been here for more than 2 years, you have the right to see a judge, and you should make sure if you're stopped or if a family member is stopped, they say, I want to see a judge, because there are defenses. I'm not going to go into them. They're somewhat complicated, but having represented people, there are defenses. But you should carry some kind of document. It could be an old tax form. It could be a driver's license. It could be something that shows you've been in the United States for 2 years. Why? If you're here for less than 2 years, you do not have the right to see a judge, and you could actually be deported on an expedited basis. It's called expedited deportation, which is something that you want to avoid, because many people who are here do have defenses if they are stopped. Now, you don't want to turn yourself in and say, I want to cancel my removal. You don't want to do that. It's hard. And again, there are requirements that have to be met, legal requirements, but at least you do want to see a judge if you are detained and carry around proof you've been here for 2 years. Next slide, please. So again, I keep going back to this judicial warrant because there have been cases again where agents attempt to use a administrative warrant. And again, you want to make sure it's signed by a judge, a federal court judge, before you open the door. And friends, tell friends, etc. Very, very important. that they do not open the door to find out who's there, that they look to see who's there, have the person identify themselves, even show a badge. And sometimes the immigration agents may say police, but they don't always say ICE or CBP. You have the right to ask, may I see your badge? And proceed again with caution. Can you give me the next one, please? So what to look for, again, signed by a federal judge. Be aware that it has to be on federal judge. Be aware of administrative warrants. And there is a hotline, a family support hotline that you should call with information. Try to write down a badge number, a license plate number if you can see it, especially if someone tries to force the door open. So the support hotline is 855-455-7693. It's important to give information. There are so many rumors around that, again, we try to check them out. It's important, again, that information, and don't believe everything that you read on the web. Next slide, please. If you're in a car and someone pulls you over, again, you have the right to find out, are they a City of Chicago police officer, an ICE officer, Customs and Border Patrol officer? And if it's not a Chicago police officer or a Cook County sheriff, you have the right to remain silent and not talk to them and just say, you can have a sign, I want to talk with my lawyer. Make sure your driver's license is there and it's valid. And if you have valid employment authorization with you, that would be good. And again, carrying documents showing you're here for a couple of years. Next stop, please. Next slide. If you're stopped by the police, they have the right to search you and your vehicle. And it is actually a criminal offense to be driving without a license. And it is also an offense not to have registration for your vehicle, proof of insurance, etc. So police officers have more rights to search you and question you than immigration officers. Search you and your vehicle. Just very much need to remember you have to have your current documents. Never use false documents. Never use false documents. And again, just to reinforce, the state of Illinois, Cook County, City of Chicago, police officers should not and are basically cannot legally ask you for your immigration status. Next slide, please. So, what should you do in public? Don't do anything stupid. Avoid anything that attracts attention. Again, do not carry false identification or documentation. That is a criminal offense, and that could be a problem. Additionally, marijuana may be legal in Chicago, but it isn't federally. Do not be involved with drugs under any circumstances, not even transporting them or unloading them or anything like that. Don't work for companies involved with any kind of marijuana or drug-related documents. Never lie. Providing false information can result in criminal charges. Do not sign documents without understanding it, without legal counsel. If English is not strong, or if you have a family member, again, they have the right to stay silent, and it's important that they not sign anything. And again, do not talk about your legal status. I've been at presentations where people actually stand up and start saying, I've been here for 20 years, and I stop them and I say, afterwards, I can answer some questions, but please do not say anything in public. It's very important. You don't want to attract attention. Next slide, please. And I can't emphasize how important it is to have an emergency plan. Get all the documents together where everyone in the family knows where they are, passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates, divorce decrees. tax returns, at least going back 2 years, property deeds, vehicle leases, bank accounts. You should basically make sure that if you're on a lease, that there's a record as to when is rent due, who do you pay it to, how much is it, when is it due next. It's important to have these documents where every family member knows where they are, and every family member has documents that pertain to them. You need a plan for minor children. Again, a short-term guardianship plan for your child, and you want to make sure that questions are answered. How are you going to support my child? Uh, is the person able to take care of your child, or do they work full time and your child will come to home to an empty house? So make sure they have no criminal history, they know medications, medical history, doctors, schools. Make sure that basically the guardian has the physical capability and the financial means to provide proper care for your children. Next slide, please. So this is not really a forum to answer a lot of questions. Perhaps we can arrange something in the future. But I want to stress that this deportations are not new. They've been going on for I don't know how many years. What is new is the vitriol. In the past, people were going into churches, going into synagogues, mosques, uh, houses of worship. That would never have happened. It's being threatened, going into hospitals, schools. It's the vitriol, it's the hatred. It's designed to make people be afraid. Just like today's announcement of a registry. Again, it was announced. They don't even have, they say they're going to give more information. It's to make people afraid. And again, do not let fear deter you from your goals. Anyway, thank you very much, and I wish everyone only the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Up next, we have Tim Noonan.
Thanks, Caroline. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Know your rights. My name is Tim Noonan. I am a first generation American. My parents arrived from Ireland, so immigration has been a very important piece of when I grew up. That it's always been a very important thing. But immigration is really it's a fundamental cornerstone of what this country has been built on. A lot of people are discussing the importance of knowing your rights for adults, and a lot of focus on my presentation is going to be about a good bit. The first bit will be about mental health and what sort of access that you can have, and how to take care of your child for their going through this very stressful and anxious time. So we start with validate their feelings. It's child's emotion. Let them know it's okay to feel a certain way. Children are feeling scared and anxious and confused, which is normal. Encourage them to express their feelings. Use simple words such as use simple words and honest words. Do not lie to a child. The child will pick up on that, and use very simple and honest words. When a child hears about other families leaving and asks about their family, let them know that, say, some people have to leave the country, but we are working to keep our family together. But simple and truthful is really what's important. Let them know that they are safe and loved. Let them know that it's okay. Reassure the child that it's okay, and let them know that they're not alone, and the families stay together and they are loved. And make sure that let them know that they're brave and that they're going through this process. Start the conversation. It's important to bring this conversation to the child. Don't wait for the child to bring it up to you. Let them bring it. Let that conversation start from you and be initiated from you. Let them know that you might be confused, or maybe they have some questions. It also helps them to know what's true and what's not true. Yeah, so one of the first things is to find out, what do they know? What have they been hearing at school? What have they been hearing from other friends or whatever? It's best to let them know that the information is important, and to make sure to let them know what is true and what's not true, and to be able to address what is actually happening. Parents need to talk to their children. It's important to listen to the child. The immigration enforcement is a big word for a lot of children, so it's best to kind of let them know that they're probably hearing this word quite frequently. Let them know that it's important to go back to the basics of you're safe and we're staying together as a family. Teachers need to speak to the children, and the teachers are one of the first lines who will be seeing change of behavior based on a child. A child will change their behavior if they're feeling anxious or scared. So it's important for a teacher to be able to communicate with that child to find out and really understand where this is coming from. Therapists and medical professionals need to speak to children. Mental health is as important as physical health. So it's important that to suggest different tools or different ways of communicating to have the child discuss their feelings. Lawyers, just like Caroline, it's important to speak to them, and it's very important to let them know the whole story. Let them know that don't hide anything from your attorney, because it's important for them to have all the tools that they have to work with in order to be able to represent you properly. Lawmakers need to make this a process that is navigable. They're criminalizing families, and it's important to make a clear path to when somebody arrives here from another country, to be able to find out ways to have them on the road to citizenship through a clear and very understandable ways of being able to approach that. Oops, sorry, there. Children need to talk to adults about their questions. What I mentioned before, they're feeling, confused, and they need to have the adults to listen to them. The adults need to take a moment and actually hear what the child is saying, because they're expressing whatever tools they have in their toolbox to say how they're feeling. So it's important to stop and listen to what the children are saying. Mr. Rogers, actually, this is a great quote. Mr. Rogers said, "If we don't let children know that it's okay to feel sad and scared, they may think something's wrong with them, and they may do wrong with them when they do feel that way. If we can help them accept their own feelings as natural and normal, their feelings will be much more manageable for them." And then that's what's important, is to have the managing of their feelings, so they could navigate this very anxious and process. So sharing your feelings, this is important. Parents need to pull themselves together and be able to work with as a family, to be able to see that it's okay. I know you're feeling sad. I'm feeling sad too. So we could work through this to make sure that, let them know that the child has a right to feel that way, but also that it's not just a child. It's we all feel this way. So I think it's important that we be able to work with each other to be able to kind of say, all right, we're both feeling sad. Well, what can we do about it? Which is encouraging the child to act. And this is not only the child of families with immigration issues, but it does fall into that. But make them feel that they're empowered. Have them to write a note to their teacher that had brought up something nice to them. let them know that if somebody speaks with them, that they're able to kind of say, well, thank you. Or if there's another child who's going through the same process, the child could also talk to another child. It's good to have children. There's nothing like a child to another child, because they see them as peers and not as authority figures. So it's important for children to be able to speak to other children. Yes. Know when to seek outside help. Usually, if like the rule of thumb is, if for 3 months, if there's this feeling of constant fear and anxiety, that perhaps it might be time to actually seek help from a medical professional to be able to manage these feelings, because unchecked, it could be really destructive. Educate family members about ICE tactics. So first, you got to understand. It seems like I'm switching, but it's important for the family to understand what they might be approached with or might be interfacing with. So understanding how ICE operates, make sure all the family members should know their rights as regards to what Caroline mentioned about opening the door. So as long as they know what they can do and what they can't do. So, and it's also role-playing techniques. I think I can't emphasize the importance of role-playing techniques to underline these processes, to make sure that when you do get approached with ICE or somebody else, that you actually have your role-playing down, so it will go naturally. Recognizing immigration and custom enforcement. So when you have your role playing, you kind of know what you're doing. So who are these people? Who are these ICE and custom immigration and custom enforcement group? Well, here's Department of Homeland Security, and there's federal agents, and there's also ICE. These are groups that you want to be aware of who's pursuing immigration things. So you'll notice sometimes they tried to hide who they are. So like in this picture here, they covered up that it says ICE. And this one, they put a patch over their ICE, and it says police. So they might be going under a different name. So it's best to understand that you want to make sure that you know who you're speaking with when you do speak. These are different of ICE officers and their accomplices. You got the border protection, you got Homeland Security. So you just need to know who these agencies, what these agencies are, and what they can do. Recognize ICE vehicles. Well, you can see that the ICE vehicles are oftentimes, you'll see them most like SUVs, but they are vehicles with different things written on the side. You see a green stripe on there, you see a blue stripe, and that's like U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So to recognize the vehicles, it's important. And then you see that there's a U.S. Customs, and then you can see like here where it's TSA. Well, TSA though is a government agency, and I would suggest at the moment to be wary about any government agency any federal government agency at the moment, because the administration is trying to make a push to have all federal agencies be able to help with immigration. Recognize unmarked ICE vehicles. Well, you'll see it's like Ford or Dodge or Chevy, and just an American brands. They have like tinted windows, and they kind of come in pairs. The officers are come in pairs. So, but not all vehicles are. Not all unmarked cars are operated by immigration agents. Here's some examples of unmarked cars. They're not all SUVs. There are different types. And there are some cars that are not ICE, there's blue ribbon taxi in the bottom there. So, and so you want to make sure that you are taking note of what is a vehicle that belongs to ICE or one of their accomplices. The Chicago Police, and we got Cook County. As Caroline mentioned before, there are actually, I'll go on to that right now. As Caroline mentioned before, in Illinois, there is restrictions in regards to what a state of Illinois could do and what the city of Chicago could do in regards to with ICE. So it's pretty clear that there is not cooperating. They're not allowed to cooperate between agencies, between with the federal agencies in regards to ICE. Create an emergency plan. Caroline mentioned about having documents ready. That's important to have those documents, but also a different documents such as birth certificates and cell numbers. And the list of documents here are important to allow to make sure that when you are confronted, that you have these documents at the ready and to be able to show that you have been here for a period of time, but also that you have all your information, that you have that all together. So just in case you're asked to provide it, you have it with you. Resources for the undocumented. Caroline went over several of these. The Resurrection Project, they focus on immigrant justice. Caroline's list is more comprehensive, but we'll just go through this real quick. ICER, a great group working with promoting the rights of immigrant and refugees. OCAD, there's the deportation. They are designed for emergency response in regards to deportation. Now, a lot of people have asked, can I get food at a food pantry if I don't have a US ID? Many food pantries are operated differently. Some of them, and within the realm of their operation, there is wiggle room. So it really, what you would need to do is to go and determine, can you get food at a food pantry? It's important to be able to have food for the family. So oftentimes it's you could get food, but it's not necessarily. It really depends on the food pantry. So keep up to date. It's really important to bring this up about what's going on. And I had this is from a couple of days ago. Today is February 26, 2025. So there has been 100 other things that have happened. Caroline mentioned about in regards to what happened earlier today. So by tomorrow, or by the time you may see this video, some of this information may not be relevant, but is important. May not be relevant only from the standpoint of that something else may have happened in regards to that's one thing we can guarantee. Something else is going to come up. So it's important to make sure that you stay up on the news in regards to this, in regards to immigration and how they're doing enforcement. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for taking the time listening. And hopefully you'll find this information useful. And yeah, let me know. There's a website there. If you have any questions, please contact me.
So if you wouldn't mind, stop sharing, Tim. I think this is a great presentation, and people will still be able to ask questions in the comments of the YouTube channel if they want to, and I'll forward those to you. But I think this has been great. Really good clarification. And just to be clear, today is Wednesday, February 26th. I'm going to repeat that again at the beginning of the presentation. So that's when this whole initiative that Caroline was talking about is happening, which sounds ridiculously fascist. I can't even wrap my head around it, you know?
But the fact is, we don't know a whole lot. We don't know a whole lot, and I don't know why they would announce something without knowing a lot. Plus, if you're going to be criminally prosecuted, there are certain rights that you have. So again, I'm sure it's going to be challenged, and I'm sure that a lot of people are very afraid. My recommendation is wait, get more information, and then before you do anything, talk with an immigration lawyer, an accredited lay representative, to get good advice on whether to proceed. Because in the past, I've had people come into my office thinking they're here illegally. Turns out they had a parent who was a U.S. citizen. They walk out, they're a U.S. citizen.
Wow.
So again, don't let non-lawyers give you advice, and don't act on your own. Been a lawyer for a long time. When people act on their own and they make mistakes, it's that much harder to correct it. And if you are a for-profit lawyer, you charge for their mistakes. So it's worth, I know no one ever wants to pay an attorney anything. I understand that. But there are not-for-profits out there that do excellent work, that have accredited lay representatives and lawyers or lawyers, and talk with them. But this registry thing, that was what I woke up to this morning. So who
Well,
knows what it'll be tomorrow.
hugs and solidarity for all of you. I mean, this has been a great presentation, and really, even though we're in a terrible situation right now, it's really hopeful to see people coming together, and I see that there's a lot of resources and people helping out. So thank you both again.
Thank you.
Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.